The air on Tiverin 9 was thick with the hum of activity, as alien species from across the galaxy crowded into the central Colosseum. A sprawling structure carved into the rocky terrain, it served as both an arena and a hub for galactic hunters to boast of their prowess. Holographic banners shimmered above the Colosseum's entrance, displaying the day's headline: Earth Predators, Tested and Defeated. Dr. Eleanor Reese stepped off the landing pad, her boots clicking against the polished surface. Around her, alien hunters from a dozen worlds sneered, their slitted eyes and gnarled features filled with disdain. Some pointed at her Earth insignia and laughed. She ignored them, focusing instead on the massive double doors ahead. Her task was clear: show them the truth. Another Earthling trying to prove her mudball has teeth? A guttural voice jeered from the crowd. Eleanor turned to face the speaker, a reptilian hunter with scales shimmering in shades of green and gold. It's not about proving anything. It's about showing you what you've refused to see, she replied, her tone calm but razor-sharp. The reptilian narrowed its eyes. You'll regret it. Earth creatures are pathetic. Eleanor didn't bother responding. She had heard it all before. Inside the Colosseum, the arena buzzed with anticipation. Towering screens displayed footage of Earth's predators: lions prowling savannas, wolves hunting in packs, crocodiles lurking in murky waters. But the assembled crowd wasn't impressed. They snickered at the perceived simplicity of Earth's ecosystem. At the center of it all stood HFY Galactic, the self-proclaimed Master Predator. Towering at nearly 8 feet, his muscular form was encased in ornate armor made from the bones of his prey. His sharp mandibles clicked in amusement as he addressed the gathered audience. Behold! HFY bellowed, spreading his clawed arms wide. Earth's so-called apex predators, creatures that crawl, slither, and skulk. Yet they call them predators! Pathetic! His voice reverberated through the chamber, drawing roars of laughter from the crowd. Eleanor stepped forward, her lab coat stark against the dim, alien lighting. You mock what you don't understand, HFY. But it's time you learned what real resilience looks like. The laughter died down as heads turned toward her. HFY's eyes narrowed, his mandibles twitching in disdain. And who are you to lecture me, Earthling? Dr. Eleanor Reese, she replied, her voice steady. Xenobiologist. I've studied predators across hundreds of ecosystems, including those here in your galaxy. You judge Earth's creatures by your standards, but you failed to see what makes them unique. HFY chuckled, a deep, rumbling sound. And what is that? Their frailty? Their simplicity? Their adaptability? Eleanor shot back. Their tenacity. Traits you've overlooked because you're too blinded by arrogance. The crowd murmured, intrigued by her defiance. HFY's mandibles clicked again, this time in amusement. Very well, Earthling. Prove it. Bring one of your creatures into the arena, and let us see this tenacity. Eleanor's lips curled into a slight smile. I thought you'd never ask. 2 massive droids wheeled a reinforced containment crate into the arena. The steel glinted under the artificial lights, its surface etched with warning symbols in multiple languages. The crowd leaned forward, their curiosity piqued. What could this human possibly have brought that warranted such precautions? HFY eyed the crate skeptically. What's inside, Earthling? A toothless beast desperate to run? Eleanor crossed her arms, her expression unyielding. Why don't you see for yourself? With a hiss of hydraulics, the crate's doors slid open. For a moment, nothing happened. The crowd grew restless, muttering among themselves. Then, a low growl rumbled through the air, a sound so deep and primal that it silenced the arena. From the shadows of the crate, a compact, muscular creature emerged. Its fur was a stark black and white contrast, and its eyes burned with a feral intensity. It moved with an unhurried confidence, surveying the arena as if sizing up its next challenge. HFY squinted. What is this thing? Eleanor's smile widened. Meet the honey badger. Malivera capensis. The crowd erupted into laughter, their mocking jeers echoing through the Colosseum. Even HFY couldn't suppress a grin. That's your champion? A squat little rodent. Underestimate it if you want, Eleanor said coolly. But I'd advise against it. HKR raised a hand to silence the crowd. Very well, Dr. Reese. Let's see what your honey badger can do. Release the first challenger. A gate on the opposite side of the arena opened with a metallic clang. A hulking predator lumbered into the arena, a six-legged beast with serrated mandibles and claws that gleamed like obsidian. The crowd roared their approval, placing bets on how quickly the honey badger would be torn apart. The honey badger didn't flinch. Instead, it growled, a deep, guttural sound that made even seasoned hunters in the audience shift uncomfortably. It charged, a blur of fur and fury, straight at the towering predator. The clash was brutal. The alien beast struck first, swiping with claws that could shred steel. But the honey badger was faster, dodging with uncanny precision. It retaliated with a ferocious bite to the beast's leg, tearing through its armored hide. The predator roared in pain, stumbling backward. The crowd fell silent, their laughter replaced by stunned disbelief. HKR leaned forward, his expression unreadable. As the alien predator attempted another strike, the honey badger lunged again, this time aiming for its throat. Its teeth sank in, and with a sickening crunch, the predator collapsed, lifeless. Eleanor stepped forward, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. Tenacity. Adaptability. Resilience. That's what you mocked. HKR stared at the honey badger, his mandibles twitching in frustration. Finally, he gestured for the next round. Let's see how long it lasts. Eleanor folded her arms, watching as the honey badger licked its bloodied muzzle, unperturbed. Oh, it'll last. The question is, will you? By the time the first round concluded, the tone in the Colosseum had shifted. The crowd no longer jeered. Instead, they watched with a mixture of awe and trepidation, their gazes fixed on the tiny creature that had defied their expectations. As the droids prepared the arena for the next challenger, Eleanor caught HKR's eye. Still think Earth's creatures are pathetic? HKR didn't respond, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Eleanor smirked. The battle was far from over, but she had already proven one thing: Earth's predators were not to be underestimated. The arena had grown eerily quiet after the honey badger's second victory. The holographic banners replayed the clash in slow motion, capturing every brutal detail: the precise strikes, the feral snarls, and the towering Kyrok Fangbeast's final, desperate collapse. Yet it was the small, bloodied creature standing victorious atop the predator's lifeless body that captivated the audience. The silence didn't last long. Hushed murmurs swelled into a cacophony of disbelief and grudging admiration. Even among the galaxy's most hardened hunters, the honey badger had begun to command a grudging respect. On the observation deck above the arena, HKR's claws gripped the rails so tightly the metal groaned. His pride as the galaxy's most esteemed predator was at stake, and this insignificant Earth creature had made a mockery of his domain. He turned to Eleanor Reese, who stood nearby with her arms crossed, a faint smirk on her lips. Enjoying yourself, Earthling? HKR growled, his voice like grinding stone. More than I expected, Eleanor replied coolly. It's satisfying watching arrogance crumble under reality. HKR's mandibles clicked in irritation, and he slammed a clawed fist onto the console beside him. This isn't over. The gates on the far side of the arena creaked open again, and the next challenger emerged. The creature that strode into the Colosseum was a beast bred for battle. Its hulking frame was covered in overlapping plates of chitin, and two pairs of razor-sharp pincers twitched in anticipation. Its 6 eyes glowed faintly red as it scanned the arena, locking onto the honey badger with predatory focus. The audience erupted into cheers, many convinced this would be the creature to end the Earthling's streak. The screens labeled it, Vorax Mauler, Apex of Culturan 4. Eleanor's gaze hardened. The Vorax was a dangerous adversary. Its armored hide was nearly impervious to attacks, and its pincers could slice through starship hulls. She glanced at the honey badger, which stood unflinchingly in the center of the arena, its fur bristling, its sharp eyes locked on its new foe. Are you sure about this? One of the Colosseum's handlers muttered to her. Even we don't bet against the Vorax, Eleanor didn't look away from the arena. "If you understood the honey badger, you wouldn't either." The announcer's booming voice echoed across the Colosseum, signaling the start of the battle. The Vorax charged, each of its 4 legs pounding the ground like thunder. It moved with surprising speed for its size, closing the distance in moments. The honey badger waited, crouched low, its muscles coiled like a spring. Just as the Vorax's pincers snapped down, the honey badger dodged, darting beneath its legs. The crowd gasped as the smaller creature leaped onto the Vorax's back, its claws raking at the chinks between the armor plates. The Vorax bellowed, thrashing wildly, trying to dislodge its attacker. One of its legs kicked out, sending the honey badger flying across the arena. It hit the ground hard, rolling before coming to a stop. Eleanor tensed, her heart pounding. "Get up," she whispered under her breath. The honey badger stirred, shaking itself off before rising to its feet. Its growl resonated through the Colosseum, low and menacing. Blood dripped from its side, but it showed no sign of retreat. The Vorax charged again, but this time the honey badger was ready. It lunged forward, slipping past the pincers and sinking its teeth into one of the creature's legs. The Vorax screeched, its movements faltering as the honey badger's powerful jaws crushed bone. The crowd was on their feet, caught between awe and disbelief. The Vorax thrashed, its pincers flailing wildly, but the honey badger was relentless. It darted around the larger predator, targeting its vulnerable joints and underbelly. HFY leaned forward, his mandibles twitching. "How is this possible?" he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Eleanor turned to him, her expression calm but firm. "Because strength isn't just about size or brute force. It's about determination. It's about refusing to give up, no matter the odds." Below, the honey badger delivered its final blow. It climbed onto the Vorax's back once more, finding a weak spot at the base of its neck. With a ferocious bite, it severed the creature's spinal column. The Vorax collapsed, lifeless, onto the arena floor. The Colosseum erupted in chaos. Some roared in approval, while others shouted in disbelief. The holographic screens displayed the honey badger standing over its latest conquest, its bloodied fur a testament to its unyielding resilience. Eleanor allowed herself a small smile. "You were saying HFY?" HFY slammed his fist against the railing, his frustration boiling over. "This is not over!" he roared. "One more challenge. One final test." Eleanor arched an eyebrow. "Desperate, are we?" HFY ignored her, barking orders to the handlers below. The gates on the far side of the arena opened once more, and the atmosphere in the Colosseum shifted. Even the most seasoned hunters in the crowd fell silent as a shadow loomed at the entrance. The creature that stepped into the arena was unlike anything that had come before. Its massive frame was a seamless blend of organic and synthetic, with gleaming metal plates covering its limbs and bioluminescent veins pulsing beneath its skin. Its claws dripped with a viscous, acidic fluid, and its eyes glowed an unnatural, menacing yellow. The screens labeled it simply, Project Apex, Bioengineered Hunter-Killer. The crowd gasped, and Eleanor's stomach tightened. This wasn't just a predator, it was a weapon, designed specifically to kill anything in its path. "This is cheating," Eleanor said, her voice low. HFY's mandibles clicked in a semblance of a smile. "Survival isn't fair, Earthling. Let's see if your little creature understands that." Eleanor looked back at the honey badger. It stood undeterred, its sharp gaze locked on the new threat. Despite the odds, it showed no hesitation, no fear. "You've got this," she whispered, more to herself than to the honey badger. The announcer signaled the start of the final battle, and the crowd held their breath. The bioengineered monstrosity roared, shaking the ground as it advanced. The honey badger, as always, didn't back down. As the two clashed in the center of the arena, Eleanor felt a surge of both pride and fear. No matter the outcome, one thing was certain: the galaxy would never underestimate Earth again. The arena was bathed in a surreal, flickering light as Project Apex advanced. Each step of the bioengineered hunter-killer sent tremors through the ground, and the air vibrated with the hum of its synthetic systems. Its acid-coated claws glistened under the floodlights, leaving faint trails of steam as drops sizzled on the floor. Across the Colosseum, the honey badger waited. Its fur bristled, streaked with blood, both its own and its previous adversaries'. Though dwarfed by the monstrosity before it, the earth creature stood its ground, exuding an aura of fearless defiance. On the observation deck, Eleanor Reese gripped the railing. Her knuckles whitened as she stared at the field below. This wasn't just another predator. This was an abomination created to destroy anything it encountered. The challenge had shifted from testing survival instincts to outright cruelty. "This is madness," Eleanor said, her voice low but resolute. HKR chuckled darkly, his mandibles spreading in what passed for a smile. "This is the pinnacle of evolution," he said, his tone dripping with smugness. "Let's see how your primitive beast fares now." The announcer's booming voice echoed through the Colosseum. "Final round! Let the ultimate predator rise victorious!" The crowd erupted into cheers, their anticipation at its peak. Project Apex struck first. It lunged forward with terrifying speed, its claws raking through the air in a blur. The honey badger dodged, its compact frame allowing it to slip under the monstrosity's swipe. Acid dripped onto the ground where it had been, sizzling against the stone. Without hesitation, the honey badger counterattacked, leaping toward the creature's exposed underbelly. Its claws dug into the synthetic plating, but Project Apex's reinforced hide barely yielded. With a guttural growl, the monstrosity spun, flinging the smaller predator across the arena. Eleanor gasped as the honey badger hit the ground hard, skidding to a stop. For a moment, it didn't move. "Is this the end of your Earth legend?" HKR taunted. Eleanor ignored him, her eyes fixed on the arena. "Get up," she whispered. The honey badger stirred, shaking itself off before rising to its feet. A deep, guttural growl rumbled from its throat. Its eyes locked onto Project Apex, unwavering, as if the creature's earlier blow had only reignited its determination. The monstrosity roared, a deafening blend of organic and mechanical sounds. It charged again, but the honey badger was ready. As Project Apex swung its acid-coated claws, the smaller predator darted to the side, narrowly avoiding the deadly strike. The honey badger's claws lashed out, aiming for the joints where synthetic plating met organic flesh. It struck with precision, and Project Apex stumbled, its movements faltering for a split second. HKR leaned forward, his confidence flickering. "Impossible," he muttered. Eleanor allowed herself a small, grim smile. "Not impossible. Just underestimated." Project Apex recovered quickly, its tail whipping around in a devastating arc. The honey badger leaped to avoid the strike, but the tail caught it mid-air, sending it crashing into the arena wall. Dust and debris erupted from the impact, obscuring the view. The audience fell silent, their cheers replaced by tense anticipation. When the dust cleared, the honey badger was on its feet again. Blood dripped from its side, but its growl was steady, unwavering. It charged, sprinting directly at Project Apex. The crowd erupted in gasps as the honey badger darted under the monstrosity's legs, aiming for its vulnerable undercarriage. It climbed onto the creature's back with astonishing speed, its claws digging into the plating. Project Apex thrashed, its movements erratic as it tried to dislodge its attacker. The honey badger held on, its jaws clamping down on an exposed section of bioluminescent veins at the base of the creature's neck. Sparks erupted, and Project Apex's roars turned into a glitching, distorted screech. HKR slammed his fist onto the console. "This can't be happening. It's not just happening," Eleanor said, her voice steady. "It's inevitable." Below, Project Apex's thrashing grew weaker as the honey badger tore into its vulnerable systems. Wires and synthetic tissue were no match for the Earth predator's relentless assault. With one final, ferocious bite, the honey badger severed a critical connection. The monstrosity collapsed, its massive frame hitting the ground with a resounding thud. The crowd erupted into chaos, shouts of disbelief mixed with cheers of admiration. In the center of the arena, the honey badger stood victorious once more. Its bloodied fur gleamed under the arena lights, and its growl echoed across the Colosseum. Eleanor exhaled, relief washing over her. She turned to HKR, who stood frozen, his mandibles twitching in stunned silence. "Well?" Eleanor said, her tone calm but edged with triumph. "Still think Earth's predators are weak?" HKR's gaze flickered between Eleanor and the arena below. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Eleanor stepped closer, her voice lowering. "Strength isn't just about power, HKR. It's about tenacity. Resilience. The will to survive, no matter the odds. That's what Earth's creatures bring to the table." The crowd began chanting, their earlier skepticism replaced with awe. The honey badger had done more than win, it had shattered preconceived notions about Earth's predators. As Eleanor made her way down to the arena, the honey badger turned to her, its sharp eyes locking onto her face. For a moment, it seemed to understand the significance of what it had achieved. She knelt beside it, her voice soft but firm. "You've proven them all wrong," she said. The honey badger let out a low growl, its gaze steady. From the observation deck, HKR finally found his voice. "This changes nothing," he said, though his tone lacked conviction. "It changes everything," Eleanor replied, her voice carrying across the arena. "The galaxy knows now. Earth's creatures aren't prey. They're survivors. Fighters. And you'll never look down on us again." The crowd roared in agreement, their admiration for the honey badger palpable. Eleanor stood, the honey badger by her side, and looked up at the banners displaying its victories. This wasn't just a win for the small predator, it was a win for Earth. And it was only the beginning.